What if I told you that the most dangerous moment in your life isn't when you're failing, struggling, or at your lowest point? It's when you start succeeding. You know that moment. You finally get the promotion, launch the business, achieve the goal you've been working toward. Society says your friends will celebrate with you. Arthur Schopenhauer said something else entirely. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why your success triggers something dark in people around you, why those closest to you often become your quietest enemies, and why the higher you rise, the more invisible knives get aimed at your back. Or maybe you've already felt the shift and wondered if you were imagining it. But first, let me show you exactly what I mean. You achieve something significant and share it with two people. First, there's your colleague Sarah, who congratulates you with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, asks questions that feel like they're looking for flaws, and suddenly seems distant despite years of closeness. Classic hidden envy. Then there's someone you barely know who genuinely celebrates because your success doesn't threaten their sense of self-worth. Who is actually happy for you? Hold that thought, because what I'm about to tell you will flip everything you believe about sharing success and maintaining relationships. Sarah's congratulations masked resentment she'll never admit to herself. The acquaintance's joy was real because they have nothing to lose from your win. Sarah's proximity to you made your success feel like her failure. The stranger's distance made your success just good news. So why does everyone tell you to share your wins with those closest to you when they're the ones most likely to be hurt by them? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who know you best resent your success most because it forces them to confront their own stagnation. Schopenhauer spent his life studying human nature. And what he discovered was this: envy isn't about what you have, it's about what your success reveals about what they don't have. Because people who envy you prove that everything we've been taught about celebrating together is naive idealism that ignores the dark reality of how success triggers comparison, inadequacy, and silent resentment in those who witness it. But here's what Schopenhauer knew that nobody talks about. The envy isn't personal, and it isn't rational.
It's a psychological wound your success unintentionally inflicts. While you're focused on your achievement, others are processing what your win means about their worth. And that processing, that's exactly what turns friends into subtle enemies, supporters into saboteurs, and success into isolation.
But to understand why, we need to dig into the brutal psychology of envy that most people never admit exists in themselves. Schopenhauer wrote, "Compassion is the basis of morality, but envy is the basis of human interaction." But what happens when your success makes envy impossible to hide? If you've ever felt relationships change after achieving something, this video is for you. Like, subscribe, and let's understand the dark side of success. Leave a comment about the relationship that changed after you succeeded and whether they ever admitted what you both knew was happening. That's what success does to your relationships. It becomes an unwanted spotlight revealing painful truths. Your achievement becomes their measuring stick. Your progress becomes their stagnation. Your validation becomes their inadequacy. Friends who seem secure suddenly find flaws in your success. Family who seemed supportive suddenly downplay your achievement. Colleagues who seemed collaborative suddenly become competitive. And this creates isolation, because if celebrating success means triggering envy, if sharing wins means losing relationships, if rising means watching others pull away, then what does that say about every piece of advice telling you to stay connected and share your journey? But here's where it gets really interesting. Schopenhauer discovered something that explains why people closest to you often resent your success most. And it has everything to do with proximity and comparison. Remember that uncomfortable shift when you achieved something someone close to you hasn't? Schopenhauer had a name for it. And once you understand what it is, you'll never share success the same way again. Quick question. When was the last time someone genuinely celebrated your success without making it about themselves, finding a flaw, or creating distance afterward? Not giving a polite congratulations, not showing happiness that felt performative, genuinely celebrating without their ego being threatened. Rare, isn't it? That's because humans aren't wired for genuine celebration of others' success when that success triggers comparison. Schopenhauer discovered that envy isn't a character flaw. It's human nature responding to social comparison that makes us feel inadequate. He called this the misery of comparison. We measure our worth by comparing ourselves to those around us, and your success changes the measurement in ways that make others feel diminished. And in our culture, the biggest lie is that people who love you will be happy for your success, when the truth is proximity determines pain. The closer they are, the more your win hurts. But here's what Schopenhauer knew. We're programmed to compare ourselves to people in our proximity. When distant people succeed, we feel inspired. When close people succeed, we feel inadequate. Your best friend getting promoted triggers envy. A stranger getting promoted triggers nothing. Not because we're bad people, but because our psychological sense of self-worth is based on relative position to those we consider peers. Think about your last achievement. Who seemed genuinely happy? Probably people far enough away that your success didn't make them question their own trajectory. The person who secretly envies you doesn't want to feel that way. They're often good people struggling with feelings they're ashamed of. And somehow this is the part that breaks people's understanding. Their envy isn't about hating you. It's about your success making them hate their own situation. Schopenhauer wrote, "Hatred is an affair of the heart, contempt that of the head." What people feel when you succeed isn't hatred. It's something worse. It's the realization that you've achieved what they haven't. Moved forward while they've stayed still. Validated yourself while they remain unvalidated. But what if you're not being paranoid when you feel the shift? What if envy is the inevitable price of visible success? Here's what success coaches don't want you to know. Your success will cost you relationships, and there's nothing you can do about it. Everything you've been taught about staying humble and sharing your journey won't protect you from envy. Schopenhauer wrote, "They tell us that suicide is the greatest act of cowardice, that only a madman could be guilty of it, but the motive which prompts it is the complete exhaustion of hope. Some of your relationships will experience complete exhaustion of hope when your success makes their stagnation undeniable. The truth most never accept is this. Your mere existence at a higher level makes others feel their position more acutely. While you're trying to stay humble and not make it a big deal, they're processing that you succeeded where they haven't. While you're attempting to maintain the relationship, they're dealing with emotions they don't want to have. While you're hoping things stay the same, the fundamental dynamic has shifted irreversibly. This is why successful people often feel isolated. It's not arrogance or forgetting where they came from. It's the mathematical reality that rising creates distance, and that distance is often filled with unspoken resentment from those left behind. Remember Sarah from earlier? While you were hoping she'd be genuinely happy for you, she was dealing with what your promotion meant about her career trajectory. Her coolness wasn't personal malice. It was self-protection against the pain of comparison. Schopenhauer called this the suffering inherent in existence. Your success adds to others' suffering not through your fault, but through the nature of social comparison itself. But here's the really crazy part. Acknowledging this feels arrogant. It feels like you're assuming people are thinking about you. It feels wrong to believe your success affects others negatively. And that's exactly how we stay naive about the dark side of success. By making it taboo to admit that your achievements trigger envy, society keeps you unprepared for the relational casualties success creates. So you keep sharing openly, keep expecting celebration, and keep being confused when relationships change. Schopenhauer believed that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. Your success will require solitude because the free person who rises triggers bound people who haven't. And that triggering creates distance they enforce while you wonder what you did wrong. Now we get to the real reason society tells you to stay humble and not flaunt success. And it's not what you think. This isn't about preventing arrogance. This is about managing others' envy. Schopenhauer wrote, "Compassion is the basis of morality, but society needs you to feel compassion for others' envy by hiding your success." Think about it. Our entire social framework depends on one belief, that you should downplay your achievements to protect others' feelings. You're told to stay humble so people don't feel bad. You're advised not to brag to maintain relationships. You're expected to make your success smaller so others feel bigger. The person who understands envy looks at this advice and asks one simple question. Why should I hide my success to manage others' psychological issues? And nobody has a comfortable answer because the answer is to keep you small and keep them comfortable. They have the freedom to celebrate fully, the clarity to expect relational casualties, the strength to rise despite the loneliness it creates. This makes them threatening. Threatening people expose that staying small to manage others' envy isn't virtue, it's self-sabotage. But here's the deeper fear that keeps the humble advice flowing. What if everyone stopped managing others' feelings about success? What if achieving people fully celebrated without worrying about envy? What if success was shown fully instead of hidden carefully? If that happens, the people who haven't succeeded would have to face that reality constantly. They've been protected by successful people staying humble. And those who celebrate success openly prove that maybe others' comfort isn't the successful person's responsibility. The person who hides their success represents someone who can be controlled through guilt about others' feelings, someone who will limit themselves to avoid triggering envy, someone who maintains the fiction that success doesn't have to create distance. Schopenhauer observed, "The two enemies of human happiness are pain and boredom. Your success inflicts pain through comparison on those who've been bored in stagnation. And society needs you to feel responsible for that pain, so you'll limit your celebration, hide your progress, and ultimately achieve less to avoid becoming the target of envy." But here's where this gets personal, because Schopenhauer himself was the perfect example of what happens when someone succeeds and refuses to hide it. Arthur Schopenhauer was a philosopher whose work wasn't recognized during most of his life. And his experience proves everything about envy. His contemporaries ignored his work while celebrating others. The academic establishment dismissed his ideas while promoting lesser thinkers. Society rejected his philosophy while he knew it was superior. Schopenhauer experienced years of what looked like failure while being surrounded by mediocrities who succeeded through politics rather than merit. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happens when envy determines who gets celebrated versus who gets ignored. But here's what Schopenhauer knew from living this. He had understood something profound about human nature. That people can't celebrate what makes them feel inadequate. That proximity determines who resents your success most. That envy is inevitable, and trying to avoid triggering it is futile. And from that understanding came insights about human nature that explained his own experience. The nature of envy, the suffering of comparison, the isolation of achievement, the dark psychology of social dynamics. All of these concepts shape how successful people understand relationships today. They all emerged from someone who lived the dark side of success and refused to pretend envy wasn't real. This is the pattern throughout history's successful people. They experienced relational casualties from achievement. They noticed friends pulling away. They felt the shift in how people treated them. They learned that success creates isolation not through their fault, but through human nature's response to comparison. But success culture calls this paranoia, because admitting envy exists means admitting we're not as noble as we pretend. The person succeeding today faces the same pattern. And just like Schopenhauer, they're not being arrogant by recognizing the shift. They're being realistic about how humans respond to others' success. And that realism looks like ego when it's actually just pattern recognition. Here's what Schopenhauer knew from living it. Your success will change your relationships, and pretending it won't makes you naive, not noble. But maybe you're starting to recognize this pattern in your life. Maybe you felt the shift after achieving something. Schopenhauer wrote, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people." Do you? But recognizing when others' envy is changing your relationships requires seeing these signs. Let me show you these signs. If you recognize them, understanding this will help you navigate the isolation success creates. First sign, people who seem supportive suddenly find flaws in your achievement. Traditional friendships celebrate success. They congratulate you, but immediately point out how it's not that impressive, lucky, or sustainable. They downplay your win with "yeah, but" statements. Your success triggers their need to diminish it so they feel better. That's not them being realistic. That's envy speaking. Second sign, conversations shift to their struggles whenever you share wins. You mention your success and they immediately pivot to their challenges. They can't let your achievement stand without balancing it with their difficulties. Every celebration becomes about them. Sound familiar? That's not them needing support. That's them unable to let you have a moment. Third sign, They stop initiating contact after your success. Real friends stay consistent. After your achievement, you notice you're always the one reaching out. They've pulled back without explanation. Your rising triggered something they're processing by creating distance. Fourth sign, passive-aggressive comments disguised as jokes. They make cutting remarks about your success wrapped in humor. Must be nice to have everything work out. Some people have all the luck. These aren't jokes. They're expressions of resentment they can deny if challenged. Fifth sign, they share your struggles but not your wins with others. You notice they tell people about your failures or challenges but never mention your successes. They're more comfortable with you struggling because it doesn't trigger comparison. Your wins threaten them. Your struggles comfort them. Sixth sign, they befriend or celebrate people you surpassed. After you get promoted beyond them, they suddenly become close with people at your old level. They're seeking relationship dynamics where they're not the one falling behind. Your success made you unsafe to be close to. Seventh sign, you feel like you need to hide success or apologize for it around them. Healthy relationships let you be fully yourself. Around them, you downplay achievements, avoid talking about wins, feel guilty for succeeding. You've learned their comfort requires your success to be invisible. You've been taught. These are signs you're being arrogant or not staying humble enough. You've been told to be more sensitive to others' feelings. Schopenhauer would tell you you're experiencing the inevitable dark side of success. When you stop hiding your success and accept that envy creates distance, you gain access to something real. Not the fake harmony of staying small to protect others' feelings, but authentic relationships with people secure enough to celebrate you. An honest clarity about which relationships were based on you being at their level. This is why successful people often have smaller but stronger circles. When you're not maintaining relationships based on staying equal, you can have relationships based on genuine support. This is why they seem more alone but less lonely. Because they're not surrounded by hidden resentment disguised as friendship. But accepting this truth, that your success will trigger envy you can't prevent, that's the hardest part. Now comes the practical question. How do you handle the envy your success creates? Schopenhauer believed that the wise have always said the same things, and fools, who are the majority, have always done just the opposite. But once you understand envy is inevitable, you need a framework for managing relationships through success. First, be selective about who you share success with. Not everyone deserves to know your wins. Share with people who've demonstrated they can celebrate without it triggering comparison. Distance creates safety. People far from your level or far from your life can be genuinely happy. Those competing in your space cannot. Second, recognize and accept the relational casualties. Some relationships will not survive your success. That's not your fault and not something you can prevent. Stop trying to maintain relationships with people who need you to stay small. Let them go without guilt. Third, develop what Schopenhauer called acceptance of life's tragic nature. Success has costs. One cost is that proximity-based relationships change when you rise. This isn't fair, but it's reality. Fighting reality creates suffering. Accepting it creates peace. But here's the most important part. You have to stop managing others' feelings about your success. Society has trained you to feel responsible for others' envy. You're supposed to stay humble, downplay wins, hide progress. But their feelings about your success are their responsibility, not yours. Schopenhauer understood that we can't control others' suffering. Your achievement will trigger comparison in some people. That's inevitable. Hiding your success to prevent their discomfort is sacrificing your celebration for their comfort. Your wins might mean losing people you care about. Your rise might create distance you didn't want. Your success might reveal which relationships were based on equality rather than genuine care. And that's not failure. That's the price of not staying small. Think about it. Every successful person faces this. Schopenhauer documented how achievement changes relationships. The pattern is universal across time and culture. But when their success becomes undeniable, the envy that was hidden becomes the isolation that's obvious. Their supposed arrogance for acknowledging this turned out to be realism about human nature. The same pattern continues today. The person who succeeds visibly loses relationships to envy, while those who knew this would happen aren't surprised, just prepared. Here's what nobody tells you about success and envy. You will lose people, and the pain is real even when it's inevitable. Let me say it again. Schopenhauer wrote, "All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident." The truth that your success triggers envy passes through these stages in relationships. First, you're paranoid for thinking it. Second, you're arrogant for believing it. Third, it's obvious to everyone, including the person who envied you. You've been rising while others stayed level. You've been achieving while they witnessed. And that success gave you something they don't have and triggered something they can't control. The realization that you've moved forward and they haven't. The comparison that makes their situation feel worse. The envy they didn't want to feel, but can't help feeling. But your awareness of their envy won't protect relationships. It won't fit the "stay humble and maintain bonds" narrative. Instead, some people will pull away. Some will sabotage subtly. Some will find reasons to diminish your success. And that's painful confirmation that success has a dark side that innocent advice about staying connected ignores. When you succeed, relationships based on equal status dissolve. People who needed you at their level for their comfort will resent you rising. The shift is real, the envy is real, and pretending it isn't keeps you confused about why relationships changed. Society teaches you to manage others' envy by staying small, because mediocrity is more comfortable for the majority. They prove that maybe the problem isn't successful people who need to hide achievements. Maybe the problem is a culture that makes you responsible for managing others' psychological response to your success. If you're someone whose success changed relationships, if you felt friends pull away after achievements, if you've been called arrogant for noticing the shift that everyone felt, Schopenhauer would recognize you immediately. You're not paranoid. You're not arrogant. You're not imagining it. You're experiencing the inevitable dark side of success that society pretends doesn't exist, so you'll stay confused instead of prepared. The question isn't whether you should hide success to prevent envy. The question is whether you'll accept the isolation success sometimes creates and celebrate anyway. Because Schopenhauer was right about human nature. Envy is the basis of human interaction, and your success will trigger it in those close enough to compare. And sometimes the loneliest thing about success is realizing that the people who should celebrate with you are the ones most hurt by your achievements, even when no one wants to admit it. The person who succeeds openly isn't society's arrogant fool. They're proof that protecting others from envy by staying small serves others' comfort, not your potential. And that's exactly why mediocrity resents them. If this video made you understand why relationships changed after success, or if you recognize the shift in how people treat you after achievements, let me know in the comments. Which relationship changed after you succeeded, and did they ever admit what you both knew? And if you want more content about the dark psychology of success that optimistic advice ignores, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we're just getting started with truths about achievement that comfort seekers don't want to hear.